All right, everybody, back by popular demand. I'm going to be doing a breakdown of Trevor Tomoson's second amateur fight. If you are not familiar with the first video, we had a lot of fun with that. I wasn't sure anybody would watch it, but we had quite a bit of interest, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So, just a little bit of background here. Trevor Tomoson is one of our original jiu-jitsu students here at our academy. He trained, I would say, to a very high level at our school, and we had some interruption with COVID with our jiu-jitsu program, and he has since moved on to One Combat, which is where he fights out of now. And he's really done a great job, training his skills and working on the fundamentals before jumping into the ring and not jumping in too early. So that was probably one of my biggest pieces of advice to him, and he's done a great job of that. So let's see how it goes. So here we go. We got Trevor, record 1-0, height 6'2", 253. So he's in the near the top end of heavyweight. Heavyweight, I believe, goes up to 265, fighting out of Sioux City. His opponent, Chris Tadich, it looks like. I might be saying that wrong. He's also 1-0, 6'1", just a little bit shorter. Came in at 278. And my understanding is that he cut down to 278 and walks around typically over 300 pounds. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But from Postville, Wisconsin. And I'll pause it once in a while so you can hear my voice over the video. So right here we see Trevor is definitely a little bit taller. The other guy is Chris, is obviously quite a bit heavier. So that's going to be an interesting matchup once we get into the fight. It's automatically you assume that somebody that's that heavy is not going to be in good shape. And we'll see how that plays out during the fight. You would expect that somebody that size would gas out very quickly, although these are amateur fights, so they're only 3-minute rounds, three-minute rounds, I believe. Now, I have not fought in the ring like this, and I have to think that this part right here is probably the most awkward piece of the fight, is having to stare into your opponent's eyes before trying to punch him in the face in a few minutes. So I'll have to ask Trevor what he thinks about that. Putting on a little gun show there. That's nice.
His height, 6 feet, 2 inches, and his weight, 253 pounds. He trains with One Combat Academy, and he fights out of Sioux City, Iowa. His name is Trevor Tomoson.
All right, so kind of cool here. Trevor does fight out of One Combat. We see him rocking the Pride Martial Arts shorts there, so that's from our academy back in the day. So Trevor, I think you would say probably the most dangerous aspect of Trevor is, or almost certainly not probably, is his grappling. He's been boxing really, really consistently for a number of years, but when we see him in the ring, definitely his most dangerous attribute is his grappling skills. Which, if you get a chance, go back and watch my previous video. He did win his first submission, or his first fight by submission.
Across the cage and fighting out of the Longwinded corner. It's also stands undefeated with 1 win, 0 losses. His height, 6 feet, 1 inch. His weight, 278 pounds. He trains with New Mexico, and he fights out of Postville, Wisconsin. His name is Trevor.
So just real quick here, it's interesting, they look so calm and excited in the ring. I have to assume that there's just a really mix of emotions right here, right, of excitement and incredible nervousness and pressure all at the same time. So sometimes what we practice on the mats or in the ring in our training gym doesn't always translate into the octagon or the circle, whatever this is, just because of that. It's such a different atmosphere. So I think you would say right here, you can see that Trevor's moving quite a bit more spryly, I guess, than Chris is. Chris does look like he's got heavy hands, so this will be interesting what happens in the very opening sequence here. And I'll let it play through a little more and not pause quite so much during the fight itself. So it looks like he did tag him just a little bit there. Trevor, now that was interesting. It looked like Trevor kind of wanted to clinch there and maybe got a jab or a straight punch as he was coming in. So nothing makes the clinch less fun than getting punched on the way in, right? So it kind of changes your mind just a little bit. There's a little clash there. So we did secure the clinch finally, right? Right here's the clinch. Chris has a whizzer, so that's a nice job trying to stop Trevor from taking him down. So Trevor obviously would like to take this fight to the ground. Here's where we see that weight discrepancy, right? Trevor is a really big dude. Size does matter. Now, I really like right there where Trevor was putting his head. Putting your head in their chin position is really aggravating to that person who wants to really dig down and kind of get their center of gravity lower. So Trevor's head position is on the right side here, either on Trevor's left or under the chin is the best spot for that. And see that chin position there is really aggravating. I do want to comment, we always hear people shouting knee, 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 right? It seems to be the secret weapon that all fighters forget to use, right? All the armchair fighters sitting in the audience always like to remind them to use their knees. I think in some cases, I'm sure that's true. I think a lot of times too, when we knee strike, we risk compromising our balance and our base for maybe not as dramatic of a result as people think, right? If somebody gets kneed in the head, of course it's going to be a dramatic result, but sometimes kneeing somebody in the leg isn't enough of a reaction, or it doesn't give me enough results to risk taking one leg off the ground and being out of balance, right? Because Trevor's concerned right now that Chris at any moment might try to spin him around to the cage and try to change, completely 180 against the cage clinch here. And so Trevor, even while he's searching for this submission, he's got to keep a solid base while he's doing that. And Chris as well, same thing. Right? Chris doesn't want to risk too many knee strikes because then Trevor will time it and be able to take him down during a knee strike or immediately after. And a little hand fighting here, that's nice. So Trevor's switching sides here. He's digging for that leg. Good. I like the high hand here. Look how it's keeping Chris's upper body up high. And that was a nice punch. We'd like to see plenty of those, of course. Now Trevor's going deep. He's really going for this double. Switch to a single, turned him. Okay, this is super interesting here. So Trevor was able to take him down with a single leg, but Chris very wisely landed with his back against the cage. Now, if Trevor had been able to turn just a little more this way and pull Chris's head away from the cage, it would have been much harder for Chris to land like this, and I think we'd see a different result here. Now, Chris is grabbing that guillotine, so he must not have watched my first breakdown video. Trevor is not afraid of being guillotined. Trevor will use that as an opportunity to pass and to secure takedowns. Right here, though, the guillotine is offering Chris an opportunity to turn and face Trevor in a way that's letting him do what we call build a house and start to sit up. So Trevor's doing a nice job trying to sit on the leg, but Chris is too big, he's too hard. Yeah. Chris gets up, but Trevor is able to take his back. Now, I like that knee strike a lot. So Trevor's in a lot more solid position here, and those knees to that muscle belly of the calf right there really probably hurt. You see him getting a reaction. Beautiful rear takedown. Now, ideally he would have turned another Let me see if I can take us back just a tiny bit. Ideally, Trevor would have turned Chris another about 90 degrees, so he had landed not. Let's see how he lands here. So he was able to land on his hands right here, and we would have liked maybe to pull his head further this direction so he landed more on his side and not so much on his hands. But again, that's much easier said than done, right? We're talking about taking down a 300-pound dude that's trying to resist you from doing that. So this is kind of a maybe an inevitable result. And then in this position here, it's really tough to stop Chris from getting up, right? He kind of just walks hands and knees over to the cage. Like, he's very smart getting up. There is some fence grabbing there, which I'm told was not the only time in this fight. You know, if the ref doesn't see it, I guess it is what it is, right? Fence grab will always help against a grappler. Here, that was a nice spin, right? So it's hard to hold on to somebody when you're not wearing a gi, and that's what we saw there. Chris was able to turn around, but really dominant round, I think, for Trevor. Right, maybe a trading of punches, but other than a little bit of punch trading, Trevor was pretty much dominant in the grappling scene. Good, and now we'll notice Trevor is sitting here. He's got his corner man. I'm sure getting really good advice from One Combat. On the other side, though, it's interesting that Chris, we'll see if we see it here in a second, does not sit in between rounds. So you would think somebody that's nearly 300 pounds, maybe even over 300 during the fight, you would want to be sitting. But he's standing up, so he seems to have confidence in his cardio. You know, and even though Trevor was pretty dominant in control the majority of the first round, the other guy may not be as gassed as you would expect, right? So we can see how they come out here in a second. Right, so there we see Chris throwing some heavy hook punches with that. He's southpaw throwing that left hook. Now, one thing I notice here is that Trevor has a tendency to react. He reacts pretty big to the left hook, and I don't know if that means he got tagged with one earlier, but Trevor really turns away to his right to evade that left hook, which he does a really good job. I don't think he gets tagged by any more big left hooks. We'll have to see if there's any more in here, but he doesn't get tagged too much. But I'd like to see him maybe try to slip under it or deflect it, maybe. Cover the head and absorb one on the arms and then come in and hit or clinch after that. We see Trevor trying to use these, like you might call them teep kicks, to the shin. That's aggravating. We see Chris reacting to those. Now Chris is getting tagged a little bit. And we see just Trevor's movement. Trevor looks like he's got more energy, right? So it feels like the tide is shifting, even in the punching battle, which was very even. Now Trevor seems to be taking the lead a little bit. I do like those low kicks to distract him. Kind of a lunging right there. Nice idea. Good, there he caught him again. So he seems to be a fairly stationary target for Trevor, but he's got heavy hands, so it's not just safe to come in wailing always. Good, so now we got a nice clinch again, and now this is Trevor's territory again, right? So he's going to go for that takedown. Remember, he was successful with a single leg in the first round. Chris seems to know how to defend single and double legs pretty effectively. That's a lot of work right there, picking up a 300-pound dude to take him down, especially when this clinch right here that Trevor has was a little bit high in the hips to be able to do any kind of lifting takedown like that. And we see Chris here trying to dig his hand in. If you can see my mouse, my cursor, trying to get an underhook on this side. That's wise. This wizard here is the next best thing. Once he can get underhooks, then he can stop Trevor from going down and trying to grab his legs. Now we got those knee strikes that everybody's calling for. Trevor's dropping down low. Okay, switching to the single again. Look. Oh. Now, that was really interesting because when Trevor grabs this single leg, let me see if I can catch the moment here. And I don't mean to make you rewatch too much of the video, but to me this is interesting. So here, when Trevor grabs this leg for the single, he wants to lift the knee, of course. Trevor's going to swing his butt in this direction. and then Chris is going to fall in this direction. But what Trevor needs to do is when he lifts this leg, this foot needs to end up in between Trevor's legs, or possibly over here, but generally to be in between. And you see just all Chris did is he hooked this leg on the side of Trevor's foot. Just that little, 1% change right here. So let's watch and see when Trevor picks up his leg. He's going to hook his leg just a tiny bit right there. And that's all it took to prevent the takedown with just that little footwork. Super interesting. Now, Trevor, of course, easier said than done to lift up a dude's leg when he weighs 300 pounds, right? And Trevor's very, very strong. Trevor's probably stronger. And that was a great example where then Trevor was able to get the foot all the way on this side, secured the takedown. We see now Chris is very aware of being taken down and the danger that Trevor poses. Landed immediately on his elbow, turning to face Trevor. He's going to put his back against the cage here. Right now, Trevor's doing a nice job covering the head, but it's hard to stop somebody from standing up when they have that base. That elbow that was on the ground just makes it so tough to stop them from standing up. So here we go. We got just really nice wall clinch work though. That knee got a reaction, right? Those do hurt. It also feels maybe a little safer. Like Chris doesn't have the energy right now to explode out. One thing that Chris would like to try to do is in a moment when Trevor maybe is a little bit loose or a little just unaware, perhaps. Chris would like to try to explode and then spin them around so that Trevor's face back to the cage. And then Chris, I would imagine in that case, Chris would probably just disengage and go back to punching. But right now, the energy just feels like Chris probably doesn't have that kind of explosive energy to be able to do that. So Trevor feels a lot safer doing the knee strikes too, right? As we talked about before. Little hand fighting. I like that punch. That's the second one we've seen from Trevor there. Second really hard one. Good. Now Trevor looked energetic. They seem he does seem a little tired here, but of course anybody would be after 3 minutes of fighting. Interesting again that Chris doesn't sit down in between rounds. I'm not sure what he's saying here. He probably, he got punched in the face, right? So I'm sure his teeth or his lip don't feel good. Maybe something's loose or whatever. I think it's probably an inevitable result of getting punched in the face. Yeah, and he's still talking about it. So I wonder if maybe there's something with his tooth. I'm sure Chris looks like a strong dude, and he's not going to let it stop him. He won't. There won't be an excuse or anything after the fight. Right now, I will tell you that Trevor, I would say that Trevor really, really wants to finish this and probably doesn't care if it's a knockout or a submission. He's willing to finish either way, but I'm sure that he's looking for a submission or some kind of finish right here. And you would hope that Chris is going to have start to gas out now, right? A little less energy. That wall fighting can be really energy consuming. Yeah, and we see Chris started with his hands on his hips. They look like they're low, mouth is kind of open. Trevor with that low kick. I'd like to see maybe a little more kicking with the shin too. Kick that lower leg with the shin. One thing that we might see is Trevor could do what we would in our traditional martial arts program call a switch kick. So he would switch his stance and then use this left leg to target the outside. And against somebody who's standing so heavy, I would target. We start to see in the UFC these days the kicks to the outside of the shin, right? That muscle on the outside of the calf there is extremely susceptible, as we've seen recently, and there's a nerve just a little bit below the knee there that's a great target. And when somebody's standing this heavy, it's just such a great target to be able to hit that. That would be cool to see him mix some of those in with those kind of teep kicks a little bit. I will say Chris still seems kind of fried, right? He got some energy. There was a leg kick from Chris. I don't think Trevor was too worried about that. Got a heavy jab. Nice left. Now, I will say, we just heard one of the coaches talking about body punches, and while I totally agree, I understand, too, why it's hard for a fighter to do that, right? Because everything that you do in the ring, you're concerned that you could get counterpunched at the same time, and so it's less risky to punch to the head than to the body. So it's kind of hard to make yourself do it, especially when you're tired. We did see there, that was really, really interesting, and we saw We saw Chris do another leg kick. This was, I think, like the second one maybe. So some heavy hands there. Here's what I want to point out though. So there's that inside kick again. Okay, so we saw Chris do a leg kick here, and Trevor reached completely, like tried to grab it. Here's a case of if it works, you're a hero, and if it doesn't, you look dumb. Now Trevor didn't look dumb this time, but what that could lead to in a fight, maybe with smaller dudes or maybe more karate-oriented people, when I see somebody reach down like this, the next time that I kick with this leg will be to the head. And it's really hard for this person in Trevor's situation, especially when you're really tired, to not reach down and grab it once you've started that habit or once you've shown that you have that habit. And so, of course, I'm not worried about Chris doing a head kick, but if he had that in his arsenal, now would be the time to do it. And I think we're going to see, too, okay, Trevor's going to the front kick, and we see Chris like just kind of not really mobile when he's defending those. I think that I would say the same for Chris, too, or for Trevor, too. If he had a right high kick in his arsenal right now, and I know he's very tired, this would be a great time to try it. Or even better, a left high kick. But those are much harder for right-handed people to pull off, especially against somebody standing in a southpaw stance. Now we see Chris though in a right stance, so I don't know if one of those leg kicks affected him or why that was. Now he's switching back. So I don't know that we've seen him do that in the punching too much lately, so I'm not sure if maybe he's just kind of throwing the spaghetti against the wall and seeing what works. Now that inside leg kick, that was with his shin. That looked a lot stronger. It's a little late in the fight to really now start to do those, but I think that'll be a good weapon in Trevor's arsenal in the future fights, especially against somebody that's standing so heavy on the front leg like this. And you see Chris swinging without even really any kind of footwork behind it. He seems to have heavy hands still, but clearly Chris is getting tired. And of course Trevor, I'm sure, is as well. He's a little slower than we saw. He's not bouncing as much, right, as we saw in the first round. He's that heavy left again. Trevor evasive. It's like smoke, right? There's a nice right, straight to the chin. That probably hurt a lot. There's those low kicks. So we just saw Chris do the same thing. When Trevor did his low kick, Chris's hand dropped completely down, trying to kind of swat it away a little bit. That's an indicator that they are primed to be head kicked. But again, easier said than done. When your opponent's 6'2" or 6'1", and you just fought 9 minutes, not so easy. Now, I will say Trevor has trained in kicking skills, so he has some very, very powerful kicks. I'm not sure that he would feel like a head kick on a 6'1" opponent was in his arsenal or not. There was a good one, too. And you see, that was higher than the block. So the block was here, and the kick landed right on the block. And that's definitely a case where I think if the kick had been able to make it up over the shoulder, which is easier said than done, but if it was able to make it up over the shoulder, I think he might have been able to make contact there. All right, so that's the end of the third round. So nice job, you guys. So Trevor, I'm sure right now is exhausted and already starting to think about what he could have done to try to secure some kind of finish. I imagine that Trevor would tell you that he didn't really feel like in any danger at any point. Maybe a couple of those punches were somewhat heavy, but I don't think Trevor felt like he was in a lot of danger. Maybe felt like, I'm sure he wished he could have controlled some of those takedowns a little longer. But overall, great fight, and now we're just awaiting the outcome. This is always interesting, right? We see on TV that it's really hard for a fighter to evaluate from inside the ring how they perform. So it's very possible that both fighters either uncertain how they did, or they both feel like maybe they won. Right? Oh, there's the Pride Martial Arts. I like it. Oh no, I don't know if that's what he's pointing at. Maybe he's got something on his leg. I don't know. Now we just heard somebody talk about the heavyweights. Again, I believe that the top end of heavyweight is 265, and I think that means that this is, I Chris is fighting as a super heavyweight, although the rules, when you get into that top end, sometimes a little different. I'm not sure exactly what the amateur rules are in that regard, but clearly he's a lot heavier than Trevor. And what we see is that, Trevor's very, very strong. And at the top end of the heavyweight division, a lot of the weight is not muscle mass, right? A lot of it's just body fat. But man, that makes it hard to control somebody and take them down, right? That even that just a sheer mass has an effect on the fight. Here we go. Can't wait to see how it turned out.
After 3 grueling rounds, this decision has gone to your judges' scorecard. You got Trevor 2, Chris Ryan, and Mike Carter have all judged this fight the same.
Unanimous.
With scores of 29 to 28.
So 1 round.
Your winner by unanimous decision and still undefeated, Trevor Tomoson.
All right, congratulations, Trevor. Trevor's now 2-0 as an amateur, undefeated. He's actually, I looked him up after the fight. He's now number 9 heavyweight in Iowa, which is pretty impressive. I think number 52 or something in the Midwest. So we're seeing, a future career right here. Getting started for Trevor. This is exciting. It's something he's been waiting for and working on for a really long time. I know he had a couple of fights that he was offered that the fighters backed out for various reasons along the way. And here's a very pretty ring girl right here for Trevor to take a picture with. That's nice.
Guys, I am here with Trevor Tomoson, who went 3 full rounds, got a unit.
And I'm just going to stop it there. Definitely, if you want to hear the interview, watch the official video as well. But congratulations, Trevor, and we're looking forward to the next one.